Hey Chad, how
Yeah.
are you?
Hey, I'm doing really well. Thanks so much for having me here today.
It's great to have you.
Yeah, so I'm a documentary filmmaker from Vancouver, British Columbia. Originally from Saskatchewan. I got started in the business about 18 years ago. When I got out of university, I was looking for jobs. I was fortunate to get hired on as a production assistant at Indigenous broadcaster, Mississippi Broadcasting Corporation in Saskatchewan, my hometown of La Ronge. And one thing led to another, and I became an editor, a series editor on a series called Heartbeat of the Earth for APTN up here in Canada. That's Aboriginal People's Television Network, and we ended up doing 3 seasons of Heartbeat of the Earth, and it was 13-part half-hour documentary series looking at the lives of Indigenous people in northern Saskatchewan, and it taught me everything that I would ever know. I think about going off into remote areas in northern Canada and shooting and editing stories. And yeah, after doing 3 seasons of that, I decided that I should probably get some training, and so moved to Vancouver, went to VFS, did that 1 year program there, met my wife Jenny, who's from Mexico, and one thing leads to another, and we fell in love and had a baby and made a life in Vancouver. And so we've just been doing that ever since.
Why don't you tell us what films you have at our festival?
So I was fortunate enough to have 2 films accepted into the festival. The first is Grass Farmers, which is a look at regenerative agricultural practices in Canada and how some farmers and ranchers are really looking at uh, old ways to find solutions to the new problems that we have when it comes to the climate conversation. And the other film is Conquetti, Walking with Caribou, which is a little less of an optimistic film. It's about the Bathurst caribou herd, which range from the Arctic Ocean in northern Canada to about the midpoint, just into Saskatchewan, and they have suffered about a 95% loss in their population over the last 25 years.
So, Chad, I'm wondering what inspired you to make these films?
Um, well, basically, I got funding because at the end of the day, it's like we all want to do a bunch of different things, but there's like almost no money in documentary, and I'm assuming I'm talking primarily to an American audience right now, and there's even less money in Canadian documentary. So it's always a challenge to be able to figure out how to couple like your ambitions and your ideas with the actual practicalities of like making something, especially if you want to do it in a place like the Arctic, where it's like just even getting a few people in to just start shooting is you're like in the $15,000 to $20,000 range right there. So it's always comes down to like where you can find the money, and so that's actually a terrible answer, but that's actually that's the truth of it. And so I've always had a desire to tell stories where people have been truly like, for lack of a better word, like groundbreaking, like where people have been like thinking outside the box about like the problems that we have, or coming at challenges in a really novel way. And in both instances, with Grass Farmers and with Walking with Caribou, that's the case. Although with Grass Farmers, it really is about rediscovering older ways of managing land, and that has some really positive ramifications for the climate challenges. And whereas like with Conquetti, the film itself is really looking at like what is a culture when you take out one of its cornerstone foundational pieces, and they're approaching that massive challenge, that massive question, with going back into their history as well too. So it's kind of both have that sort of like mixture of like ingenious, like grassroots, let's figure out how to do this thing, but the answers are always steeped in where we all came from. So I love that sort of mix.
What was your biggest challenge while making these films?
Well, Grass Farmers was actually really straightforward and very easy to shoot. Like, we had an idea for a story, we found the funding for it, and we just went forward and we just shot. And we're blessed with amazing light and weather in every situation, and so it was actually very straightforward to just go out, collect beautiful images, and then edit them together. With Colchetti, that is it was a different, it was a myriad of challenges once getting there, just because we are about, I don't know what the actual distance is in miles, but roughly like 450 kilometers of a plane ride north of, the last outlet for power. So just being able to get fuel up to be able to manage all the batteries and all the computer for data transfers and everything, there was challenges there. Not to mention that when we actually flew in to the camp on the very first day, we landed, and as we are hucking gear off our twin otter onto a beach and meeting a few folks for the very first time ever, we found out that a grizzly bear had just gone and tore down their entire camp and left it in tatters. And so we were thinking, and the snow was just starting to blow in as well too. So yeah, there's challenges, but also like great stories and tons of excitement in the end as well too. So but yeah, location is can be really tricky, especially when you're that far out there.
That's a lot of challenges. That's a lot. Did you had you already prepared for some of those challenges, like such as like the no electricity and things like that?
Well, yeah, I mean, like collectively we've been through a few different things. We've shot down in Chiapas and the mountains down there, and so like we've kind of bumped up against the kind of like logistical and practical challenges. So we just brought a giant drum of fuel with us, and we brought a little putt generator, and so all that stuff was taken care of. But honestly, in both instances, we arrived at this place that we've never been to before with the intention of telling a story with beautiful cinematography. And what we've done is we've just had these conversations with folks that didn't know what we were going to be doing or where we are coming from, and we just kind of get into a conversation. We arrived there, and people have, like, anywhere that we've gone with the crew, is people have always just opened up their homes and their hearts and kind of basically guided us along the way and just showed us how and kept us safe. And so it's been it's never been a situation where you just go in and you battle the environment and you just do it. We're always being helped so much by the folks that we're shooting with, who end up being in the film as well.
Now, did you have any experience with the subject matter that you set out to tackle in either of these films?
Yeah, so not so much with grass farmers, although I do have ranchers in my family, but that's some new thinking around there. So I've just been aware of it just kind of peripherally, as like reading things on the internet and whatnot. But yeah, when I had just gotten out of university and I was working at Mississippi Broadcasting, a gentleman from a far northern community came in and he showed us some videos that he had made. So I was maybe like 22 or 23 at the time, and he was zooming in. It was like an old Super 8 camera, and he was zooming in, or High 8, whatever the little video cameras were, and he was zooming in on this island in a lake at sunset. It was actually quite beautiful. And as he was going in, he was like, just watch, just watch, just watch. And then all of a sudden I realized that it wasn't an island that he was zooming in on. It was actually a herd of about 1,000 or 1,500 caribou swimming across this lake in northern Saskatchewan. And it was just the most like breathtaking, beautiful thing I'd ever seen before. And I didn't know that caribou, as part of their migration, would swim in giant herds like that as well. It was just incredible. And I did everything I could to try to figure out a way to pay for that short documentary back then, and it was just always outside of the budget. We just never had the ability to pull that off. But I've been thinking about that herd, and it just so happened that is the Bathurst herd. And then a few years ago, I was reading in the news that that particular herd in the late 90s, early 2000s, that was counted at about 500,000 is now under 10,000. And it was just such a shocking fall, a shocking change in numbers that yeah, we did everything that we could to find a way to help tell that story. And it just so happened, the deeper that we looked at the story, a really, really beautiful story about the Clecho people and how they're coming to terms with that and what they're doing about that challenge. That story just kind of emerged organically through that process.
Yeah, the rapid decline of the Caribou was shocking to me. I'm sure it's gonna shock many audiences, which actually goes into my next question. What impact are you hoping to have with this film, or what impact have you already had with this film?
Yeah. Well, there has been some impact. It has gone out. It is going to also find its way to broadcast in January on Aboriginal People's Television Network in Canada. And it's done well at film festivals, and it's gotten some nods, and that's great. The bigger thing is that the team, the Clecho team that you meet inside the film, they've been using it to advocate. I might need you to edit that out. I'm not exactly sure how to, but like they're taking the film and they're going to government, and they are going to different private organizations and NGOs to drum up support to continue being able to go out and be on the land and to walk with the caribou. And so that's been great. But I think really at the end of the day, like the conversation is really one that at least in Canada, no one is really talking about. Like the caribou is on our money. It's on the 25-cent coin here in Canada. We consider it to be like an icon of our country. It's a beautiful animal. It sustains so many other animals and sustains so many other people in the north. Yet to see it drop so quickly and so dramatically, and to not have it be like a central conversation in our country is kind of like shocking and a bit of a failure, I think, on our part. And so like if anything, if the film can just get out there and just get people aware of the actual problem with the caribou, and the fact that there's people out there that are doing everything they can to find answers, because at this point right now there still isn't answers. There's maybe some data that says in the last couple of years that there could be a slight bit of an upswing in numbers, but again, it takes time and consecutive visits to get out there and do as many head counts as possible. But yeah, it's kind of shocking that we all don't know about the problem more. So if the film can do anything, I guess it's just to illuminate that challenge.
Yeah, I mean, like so many other issues that the world is facing it, the fact that we're kind of ignoring it, right? So what other projects are in store for you?
Well, last year and the year before were big documentary years for me. So I was just like working on stuff. And this year I've just been doing a lot of like support work where I've been editing docs and working on commercial projects. And it's good because it's that balance between when I make the film, I basically run out of money and the entire company is all in on these projects. And then, you know, to have a year or so to like recoup. But yeah, there's a few things in the hopper, and I want to continue working on stuff that is, I don't know, I just keep saying socially beneficial. Like it's something that I love to do, and I find a story that I'm interested in, and I think that it's got there's an audience of people out there, like-minded people that would also find it interesting. And then I love collaborating with super creative people and figuring out how to turn that story into something visual, something beautiful. That's nice. So yeah, just going to continue to do more of that whenever I can.
Well, I hope so.
Thanks, man.
Chad, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was great to meet you.
Thank you.